the winter fuel payment. So today, in this chilly winter, this chilling topic of the winter fuel payment, quite literally the chilling topic. The government's winter fuel payment scheme has been triggered in a few select areas of England and Wales as temperatures have plummeted to Arctic lows in Nottingham, in Woburn, in Coleshill. The thermometers have dipped to -9 degrees centigrade, prompting the activation of cold weather payments to those most vulnerable in Britain's infamous big freeze, and the £25 payment issued automatically to eligible recipients serves as a lifeline for households already reeling from the cost of living crisis. That is, if that lifeline is available. The payment is part of the broader cold weather payment initiative, which activates whenever temperatures fall or are forecast to fall below 0 degrees on 7 consecutive days. And then this is not limited to winter. Conditions can trigger payments until March the 31st. And currently there's around 400,000 households across England and Wales that are set to benefit. But the payment is means tested now, narrowly targeted at those receiving specific pensions such as pension credit or universal credit. And this focus, while addressing immediate need, leaves significant gaps, excluding millions who are struggling but not quite destitute enough to qualify, or who haven't completed the requisite forms because it's too complex. In Scotland, a separate scheme replaces the cold weather payment. Eligible residents receive a flat £50 winter heating payment irrespective of weather conditions. And while this simplifies access, it raises questions of equity. Why should geography dictate the level of support for coping with the cold? Well, in Scotland it is generally colder than here in the UK, in England. But, really we should be looking after all the elderly, no matter where they are. And the current payments are overshadowed by the government's July decision to scale back winter fuel payments as part of fiscal tightening measures. And previously universal for those of state pension age, the payments are now restricted to low-income pensioners receiving pension credit. And the result, over 10 million pensioners no longer qualify, leaving many to choose between heating and eating. And this policy shift coincides with Ofgem's stark announcement of energy price caps rising to £4,279 annually, and inflation hovering at a 45-year high of 11.1%. Unsurprisingly, applications for pension credit have surged by 145%, but delays of up to 12 weeks mean help will often arrive too late for the harshest months. Charities like Age UK warn of dire consequences for the NHS as 2/3 of pensioners with long-term health conditions reduce heating to save costs. Stories of pensioners reveal a grim reality: damaged homes, insufficient insulation, a reliance on blankets to stave off the cold. And critics from the political spectrum, including the Lib Dems, have lambasted the government for prioritising savings over survival. I remember when I was at school and my mother had moved into what she called a cottage, but actually it had 5 floors, and my bedroom was at the top. And because she didn't switch on the heating, I found in the winter not only was the wallpaper, or there was the wallpaper was on the ceiling as well, the wallpaper peeling off the sloping ceiling, but it was damp as well. And it wasn't until I had a friend over who pointed this out to me that I realised just how grim it had got, and how the beds were damp as well. And I can remember vividly sitting at my desk trying to, where I'd got an old imperial typewriter which I bashed away on, and I'd learned how to type in a pair of gloves. And I was wrapped in scarves, and I think I had a balaclava on. And I could see my breath. And the ice was freezing on the inside of the window. So I do understand some of this about the cold. And I remember living in Moscow during the winter and thinking, well, actually, it's not as cold as it used to be when I was in Lincolnshire as a child, because the central heating in Moscow was very efficient, so efficient that actually people used to fling the windows open in the middle of the winter, because there was no other way of regulating the temperature. So while the payments for the winter fuel provide relief, their sporadic nature, their restrictive eligibility criteria limit their impact to do good. And the government has defended its actions, pointing to state pension increases and additional schemes like the 150 warm home discount. But these measures feel piecemeal when faced with the scale of the problem and the severity that is expected this winter. In a country where 4 inches of snow can grind the capital to a halt, ensuring that vulnerable citizens can stay warm should be a national priority, not a bureaucratic afterthought. Did I say that correctly? A bureaucratic afterthought, yeah. The winter fuel payment, once a universal safety net, now feels more like a frayed patchwork quilt, failing to cover the full breadth of need. And as we brace for more cold snaps and the aptly named Troll of Trondheim, perhaps it's time for the government to rethink its approach before more of Britain's pensioners are left out in the cold.